What's the last straw that made you go, yep, that person is definitely crazy? We were newly married and Hub worked at an office that had one fun guy that we liked to hang out with. Call him S. Well, S lived at home and asked if he could rent out our basement apt. It seemed like a great idea because of the extra money and he was a fun guy. It was all good for a week or so, then Hub had to leave to a different city for training. So, S thought he had to be the man of the house. I was a busy trauma nurse on call a lot and was hardly home, but when I was, S would barbecue dinner and be really miffed if I didn't want it, etc. That's just one example, but that type of behavior escalated. Hub was only gone for 3 days, came back, and S behavior kept escalating. One night, I was going out for girls' night and Hub had a big black tie with his company. S was not as high up and was planning on staying home. This was back in the late 90s, so I'm not entirely sure how he found out where I was with my gang of girls at a downtown bar. About midnight all of a sudden he shows up and tells me it's time to go. It's late. Table of my work friends became totally silent and everyone was staring at me. Also, S was wearing all of my Hub's clothes. From jacket to shirt, pants, socks and shoes. FKN bizarre. I sent him away, but girls' night was pretty awkward after that. He wasn't home when I got home, thank God. I told Hub everything when he finally got home and we went to bed. The next morning we heard thumps and a lot of loud voices. Came out of bedroom and he was moving out and had a bunch of his high school friends there. They were moving him out but also taking all our crap. Laundry, soap, food, etc. S saw we were up and marched over and gave us a lecture about how crappy we are and how we won't fare well without him, etc, and he finally left. I know he was let go at work later on and actually feel a bit bad. He prob had some sort of mental illness, but still, very creepy experience. My ex wouldn't take opiates when recovering from tonsil surgery because he considered it a relapse, recovering H addict, which I thought was commendable. He then felt like he couldn't breathe, so he got scissors and cut out his uvula and sent videos pics in a group chat. You would not believe the red flags I ignored up to his point, but that definitely did it. I audibly gasped at how straight up insane that is. Most things I've been reading here are manifestations of mental illness and I can understand that. I'm personally affiliated with the field, and it's ultimately a sad, upsetting situation for all involved. But this, I'm physically uncomfortable now. I was a personal assistant for a woman who was extremely lawyer happy, meaning she always was looking for ways to sue people. I accompanied her while she picked her child up from daycare one day. She parked in a no parking zone that most parents use as a car line to pick up their older kids, and a dad of another child came over and calmly asked her to please move her car so that the car line could keep moving. He was completely cool about it. My boss ranted all the way home about how the man made her feel unsafe and threatened and that she'd be contacting her lawyer so she could sue him for emotional distress. No clue how she went about that since I quit shortly after. And yes, she threatened to sue me when I quit. That's the ending sentence I wanted to hear most. My ex calling the cops on me because she thought I was trying to poison her. I bought salted butter instead of unsalted. Not too extreme, but I had a co-worker that regularly talked about how so many of her friends have screwed her over in the past. At first I believed her and felt bad, until she told us what her latest ex-friend did, after basically calling him every name in the book. Of course, she and her husband decided one day to replace their furniture. This was a spur-of-the-moment decision, and since they didn't have a truck to move their stuff, they texted their friend to see if said friend could help them along with friend's truck. Friend said no, can't do, I'm busy today. Crazy B showed up at his house and flipped out when she saw that he was home relaxing. That's how entitled she thought she was to his vehicle and his time. She screamed about every single thing she had ever done for him. Petty crap like bought you a soda when you forgot your wallet crap. Cops had to be called. From then on out I was careful not to accept any favors from her because I'm 98% sure the only reason she would ever do a nice thing is to throw it back in your face when you have to tell her no. Like she used to give one of our co-workers a ride home, and I witnessed this co-worker on multiple occasions offer gas money, pay for her lunch, etc as a thank you. She always declined with "I'm going that way anyway." Until one day co-worker pee her off, so she ran around telling everyone that co-worker was a mooch and never once paid gas money. IDK, maybe this is more manipulative than crazy, but she was always so miserable, so it's not like she was even getting what she wanted at the end of the day, so I consider it some kind of crazy. Months after going on a single date with a woman, she calls me on Christmas Eve while I'm at work to introduce me to her family over the phone as her boyfriend. The one date we had was dinner at a restaurant. She didn't order anything, just kept eating my fries and then watching TV back at her place. Nothing physical happened and the date ended with a handshake. When I responded that we were not a couple, she started freaking out and crying about how horrible I was for breaking up with her on Christmas Eve. So I was heading out to get groceries with my roommates, and on our way out of our house, we found a homeless man digging through our trash. It was slightly surprising since it's not every day that you find a man looking for empties under your porch. We decided he was pretty harmless since all he was doing was looking around. Plus he was actually going out of his way to clean up our admittedly disgusting parking lot of not just bottles and cans. He was sweeping dirt, weeds, and our neighbors' trash that they left unprotected under their porch, which was now swarming with wasps and eaten by animals. We got him some empties from inside, gave him a cold drink, locked the door, and left to get groceries. When we got back we found that he was still there after an hour and a half, still cleaning our parking lot. We were amazed and grateful, so we struck up a conversation. He seemed like a normal guy. He used to be a business owner, he fixed roofs for a living. He made decent money before he was homeless. He used to be married, he has kids. Unfortunately his life kind of spiraled after he got mixed up in MUs. We just sort of thought of him as a normal dude who got mixed up with the wrong substance and then got screwed over by the system. That is until he mentioned that the construction on our main street was a plot by the city to find the Templars' treasure, that he himself was a Templar descendant, and when he claimed that I specifically am the unknowing descendant of Templars, we let him talk and tell us stories for 2 hours before he stopped. It was so wild. It's my favorite story to tell. He was great though. Even after he finished his MD out rambling, he proceeded to finish cleaning our parking lot and he offered to do it again for cheap if we needed it. Frank, if you ever read this, we love you. This dude played too much Assassin's Creed. Also A man came into the bar I work at. He's a semi-regular and is quite energetic but harmless. Everything was as normal. He drank his small Sauvignon Blanc and left. This is where it gets weird. He came back in a couple of hours later and I asked him if he'd like the same wine he had last time. He stared at me, dead-eyed and completely silent for maybe 30 seconds, before laughing. He went on to tell me that I must be confusing him for his twin brother, and that in fact his brother was from Earth but he is from another planet, and there couldn't possibly be anything suitable for him to drink in our bar because his digestive system is completely different from ours. This went on for a while. He eventually left and came back in an hour or so later, had a glass of wine, and left again. He's perfectly nice and respectful, so isn't a problem, and there's a whole community of people looking out for him. But he's definitely crazy. TFW, you're so socially awkward you have to pretend you're an alien twin. My husband's cousin is the only female in the family that is around my age, so when we used to go to family functions I tended to hang out with her. Our friendship blossomed and she was who I considered to be my best friend. We both had 3 kids and they all loved each other, so we just spent a lot of time together. My husband always told me she was crazy, that she would turn on me, but I just thought they grew up together and had some weird kind of sibling rivalry kind of thing going on. Her ex-husband hated her. Court cases for custody were happening all the time. It was nasty. They weren't allowed to be in the same room together per court order even. I only heard her side of the story, so I, of course, just assumed it was him. That was horrible. Fast forward a few years, she is remarried and has a new baby with her new husband. She's an interior decorator and has always been struggling financially, but somehow all of a sudden she is buying all the things. New iPads for all the kids, including mine. Gaming laptop for her oldest, furniture, electronics. She pays a year of rent so she won't have to think about it. While I'm over there because I'm now an approved supervisor for the supervised visitation her ex-husband has imposed through the court, she starts screaming at her new husband for not loading the dishwasher correctly and pushes him fully, with real force, down the stairs. He somehow manages to be okay, but she doesn't stop. Runs after him with clear plans to attack. The guy has to literally flee his own home. I packed up the 3 older kids and my kids and got out of there. I didn't report it because she guilted me into thinking she had PPD and would be fine. One Valentine's Day she decides she wants to have a party for the kids. The time didn't work out for me, so I told her we couldn't attend. She lost her shit and called me every name she could think of. She took things I had said to her in confidence and told our whole family. I got pages and pages of scathing emails. I was crushed. 5 years later she remarried again and had 2 more babies with a new guy. She called DCF on her 15-year-old son, claiming he physically abused her 2-year-old daughter. Had zero evidence but decided because she was acting weird that this must have been what happened. After a heated altercation with new guy where police were called, she now has lost custody of all 6 kids and begs me to come to court to be a character witness. When someone has known someone for 20 years and says they are bad news, believe them. When they brought a dead bird into a Subway sandwich place and tried to barter it for a sub. Edit. This was years ago, so to my best recollection here's the long version. I was eating at my local Subway sandwiches. Woman comes to the counter, pulls a dead bird from her coat and asks what type of sub she can get for the bird. Everybody turns and watches as the teenager behind the counter realizes what's going on. He starts yelling that she needs to leave because a dead bird is an obvious health thing. She gets mad that he's not even willing to hear her out and storms off mumbling and swearing under her breath. There was some girl I met during my teenage years. We chatted for like 30 seconds and exchanged phone numbers. Never met after that, only texted. And we did that back and forth for a few months and then I went to college. Then she finally drops "I love you" to me. Obviously, I feel weird about the whole situation because we've only exchanged like 20-30 texts and all of it was small talk. I don't know how to respond to that. The next text a few hours later was "Emma Breton, I'm pregnant." What? At that point my red flag detector is going off. So I try to cut off the relationship by texting okay and ghosting. A minute later, "I think it's yours, and if you don't come back to take care of me, I'm going to kill myself." I deleted everything after that. I still wonder to this day if she was legit crazy, or if she got me confused with someone she actually slept with. Till you can get pregnant through texting. Okay, so I'm a nurse, so this is kind of a daily occurrence for me, especially when you're working in ED and dealing with people who have just walked through the door and you're trying to ascertain whether they're orientated or not. I had too many to list, but one was an elderly mother and her middle-aged son. They seemed completely normal. They often do at first. The mother was getting admitted and the son was getting ready to go home. He pulled me aside and told me his mother likes to spit in a jar on Friday evenings after she watches the news, and if it would be okay for her to do that while in hospital. Kinda weird, but whatever. She's not hurting anyone. So I said I don't see why not. I'll get her a paper cup or something and she can spit in that tonight after the news. It was a Friday. "Oh no," he said, "into this jar." He then presented this gross old jar. Looked like an old pickle jar, about a quarter full of spit. Wrong on so many levels. Let's just say, I got a real Norman Bates vibe from those two. Also, outside of work, I went to a house party one night when I was young. There was a chick there I'd met before and she seemed really cool. They often do at first. Everyone was having fun, but she decides she wants to go out to a club. She basically throws a tantrum until we all just give in and decide to drive her to this stupid club. She calms down in the car until we get about halfway there and she just goes berserk saying she doesn't want to go to her club. Why couldn't we have stayed home? Why does she have to do what everyone else wants? Why are we forcing her to go out when she doesn't want to, etc, etc. Anyway, long story short, we turned around and went back home. Once there she tried to slash the tires of the car, tried to run me and my friend over with her car, and ended up crying in the fetal position in the gutter because no one takes her seriously. Right. Boyfriend's ex-girlfriend shows up at his house and wanted to get back with him. He declines, of course. He tries to leave to work. She gets in the car with him. He repeatedly tells her to get out but she refuses. My boyfriend's a chill guy. He doesn't get mad really easily. She then physically attacked him while he was driving to work. Luckily, the cops were around the corner. They arrested her. The next day, She called my boyfriend crying on the phone and apologizing for everything. Then the day after that, she called my boyfriend, screaming at him, saying that it's all his fault that she's in jail. After all this, she left us alone. Thank goodness. I worked at a gas station when I was in high school. Every day around the same time for a couple months this really cute guy would come in for the restroom and head out. Eventually, I started being friendlier and he'd stop for a second to chat and eventually he'd ask if I'd like to hear a poem. I'd gush about how great it was and he'd go about his way. This guy was gorgeous so that clouded my judgment. His poems made no sense and got weirder as time went on. My co-worker BFF urged me to stop being so friendly as he gave her the creeps. I, being 15 and boy crazy, ignored this. This went on for months until one day he ran in with his hair in pigtails and cat-type whiskers drawn on his face and locked himself in the bathroom for over an hour. I knocked on the door several times and heard him talking as if on the phone. This was pre-cell phones being normal. I had a pager. Finally he busts out clutching a half-dissolved Urel cake up to his ear and says, "Someone left me a clue." I finally found it. Farewell. He ran away down the street and we never saw him again. Yeah, so not an eccentric poet. Not as crazy as some of the posts here but crazy enough for me to believe she's a fricked up person. A former friend of mine was extremely clingy and threatened suicide over little things like me not wanting to talk to her 24/7. I called her bluff and knew she'd never do it. It was just her manipulation tool. One day a conversation about a friend of mine with testicular cancer came up. Turns out she tried to frick him but he rejected her. She told me that she sincerely wishes that he'd succumb to the cancer. That was the last couple straws for me. My flatmate's ex got drunk and mad at him for reasons unknown. She vomited into a bucket, then stared him in the eye and tipped it all over our lounge floor. Then she tried to throw pizza she chewed up and spat into her hand, missed him and hit someone else. Then put her hand through our window, as in she literally broke the window by shoving her arm through it, and smeared the blood all over the walls and floor, all the while saying pathetic crap about him and being a general B. This was all in the space of about an hour. At 11 AM, the relationship didn't last long after that. She continued to blackmail him after they broke up, but definitely had some issues I think. When my druggy college roommate tried to pee off the girls living in the dorm room next to us by banging his head on the wall constantly to pee them off with a noise. I still don't even know why he hated them. He just did. There are quite a bit of reasons to hate your neighbors, none of which justify banging your head in the wall just to pee them off. Ex-girlfriend legally changed her surname to mine through deed poll after 1.5 years relationship. This might only be kind of related, but my friend's ex purposely got herself pregnant by a different man right after my friend and her broke up, and then named the kid after my friend like the kid was a junior. We had a float nurse who would occasionally appear on our unit. Great nurse. Patients love him. Completely insane. Always be busy when he's getting ready to go. He will start talking about insane conspiracy theories that he documents on Twitter. I decided he was definitely crazy when I received a very long lecture about how there were secret ties between Big Hero 6, some Brad Pitt war movie, and the number 3, because the meaning of everything is love. Also, he receives secret messages from the radio DJ. I'm pretty sure his wife leaving him triggered some kind of psychotic break. Or she left because he was crazy. When another nurse got engaged he looked at the ring and told her, the bigger the diamond, the colder the heart. Sounds like symptoms of schizophrenia, especially the messages from the radio DJ part. I knew beforehand, but when my son's mom sent a text message to me threatening to kill my son while he was with her, I now have full custody. It wasn't a last straw but definitely one of them. My ex-friend sent me a link to some kind of necrophily website. I was 12 at the time. I don't know if it was real or fake, but there was a person killing women and then having his way with the bodies. He thought this was normal and tried to discuss it. My 12-year-old mind wasn't ready for it. I am fine. I grew up sane, I think. My friend was 1 year older and I guess didn't know any better and just exploring his crap. I don't have the link nor I remember it. I remember it had black red layout and the man had a mask or something on his face. When I was 13 I was camping with scouts one time and my tent mate revealed how he was into necrophilia. He said how he wanted to kill one of the girls just to frick them. I did not feel safe sleeping with him and I never talked to him again after that trip. When he told me he's a werewolf. When she literally tried to break my wrist at a party for not high-fiving her. Alcohol is like a steroid for crazy. Wrist hurts just thinking about it. I think she did jiu-jitsu or something because dang. Now. You have been visited by the motorcyclist monkey. Comment monkey cycling so you never arrive late to somewhere. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.